Can I say something that just might challenge you today? Leadership will test parts of you that success alone cannot fix. What do I mean by this? Sometimes the thing that is actually limiting your business is not your strategy. It is your sensitivity. Leadership requires the ability to hear things that do not flatter you and you still remain steady. It requires feedback that has the potential to destabilize you, but you remain steady. It has the potential to rock you to your core if you are not 100% certain of who you are as an individual, as a leader, what your brand values are, what you stand for. When you refine yourself, you become a stable force in leadership. Now, for the leader who may be challenged emotionally, let's talk a little bit about how to grow beyond that. Because if you are easily offended, you are not ready to lead. And I know that that's a hard statement. I know that it's a very direct statement. What I also know is that it is a true statement. If you are easily offended, you are not ready to lead. Leadership requires emotional maturity. It requires regulation, the ability to hear things that do not flatter you, and you still be okay. So, every piece of feedback you can take in one of two ways. You can say, how can I grow with this? Or you can feel attacked by it. If you want to grow with it, your business grows. But if you feel attacked and you do nothing with it, your business will suffer. So I hope with those definitions, we are on the same page. And I want to clarify that as a leader, I am not in any way suggesting that you tolerate disrespect or that you tolerate abuse. I'm actually talking about the everyday moments in business where correction, critique, or disappoint or disagreement may show up. Now, here's the kicker. We are okay critiquing those that we lead. We're okay giving them feedback about how they did, how they can improve, what they did well. But are we really okay opening the door for them to give us, as their leader, the same type of critique? Because when we're open to hearing from our team members, we have a better idea of how we're actually showing up in the environment. And one of the fastest ways to stunt a business is to lead from ego instead of stability. Now, when a client or an employee gives you feedback and your first instinct is to defend yourself, you're not leading. You are actually reacting. When a team member raises a concern and you shut it down because it feels threatening, you're not protecting the company. You are protecting your pride. When someone unsubscribes from your offer or questions your pricing and you spiral emotionally, that is not business strategy. It is an indication that your identity is attached to that thing. Identity attachment in business is dangerous because it doesn't provide stability. If things are going well, we're happy. If things are not going well, we're sad. We're on this emotional roller coaster. But we must learn how to separate correction from rejection. And we must also learn how to be okay with rejection. We are not for everyone. Every this could be better is not saying to you as a leader that you're not good enough. It's saying, here's how we can improve. And in reality, leaders, if we were to take the time to sit with our team members who are in the day-to-day operation, doing the task over and over and over again, and listen to their feedback, we can take that feedback to accelerate our progress because they see what's working, they see what's not working, and they know how to tweak it. Every time you are in a disagreement with someone and you feel disrespected, it's time to check that. Because if you want yes, ma'am, and yes, sir employees, your business is stunted. It cannot grow. You would like to be aligned with other creative thinkers, people who can see possibilities and the execution of those possibilities. You want to be aligned with people who can see the hiccups before they actually happen and who can tell you that this is what they see in a safe space and have their feedback embraced. Every lost sale is not a personal indictment about who you are or your worth. Your self esteem cannot be attached to that because we live in a global world, which means that people have different preferences. They may prefer another leader, they may prefer another coach, but it doesn't mean that you are not a worthy individual. And so, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, if you internalize everything, you will exhaust yourself and suffocate your team members. Can I share with you today that feedback is data? I want to repeat that. Feedback is data. And I want to just pause for a second to let that sink because data helps us to make decisions. Feedback is not a verdict on your worth. And emotionally insecure leaders will hear feedback and think they don't appreciate me, they don't understand me, they don't respect me. But an emotionally secure leader hears the feedback and thinks, what can I refine? What can we do better? How can I be better? And there is a difference in that response. And refinement, the way we evolve as leaders, is the pathway to longevity. One of the reasons I loved working in my role as the director of quality assurance many years ago at the Atlantis Resort was because we got to field almost every complaint for the resort. It could be food poisoning, it could be slip and fall, it could be my toilet clogged. Any and every complaint was channeled through the quality assurance department. This information was crucial to the resort because it gave insight into reoccurring situations. Every month, we got the opportunity to reflect on the month past and see what the common issues were. And then we got to resolve them. Because with that insight, we then got to jump into action to avoid future guests from experiencing that exact situation. That is how complaints and feedback become a gift to your organization. With data, we get to become better. So if you're working hard on a business that you really want to last, you must become someone who can sit with friction, who can handle friction without falling apart. Leadership involves friction on an almost daily basis. Friction, conflict resolution, differences of opinion, and such. We find them in our environments as we lead people, as we lead processes. And so, as leaders, we can't run away from those things. But we must learn how to handle them. Because here's the reality: customers will not always be satisfied, team members will not always agree with us, markets will shift, customer expectations are going to change. And as leaders, if we're fragile in those moments, our business then becomes fragile. So imagine if a client comes to you and this client says, I loved working for you, but communication felt a little inconsistent. An insecure leader is going to hear this customer telling them that they're incompetent. But a mature leader is going to see that that feedback is vital and ask clarifying questions such as, tell me more. Where do you feel the breakdown occurred? How could it have been better? Because with more information, more data, we get to make more informed decisions. A defensive leader would say, well, you didn't respond either. Well, just cast the blame. A pride-driven leader would probably just not even respond. Their ego would automatically take over. And if you had a choice of what leader you wanted to work for, which would you? Drop it in the chat and let me know. Because when a mature leader pauses and asks clarifying questions like, tell me more, Mm, that's good feedback. Where did you feel the breakdown occurred? How could it have been better? They show interest in hearing more from their team members, more from their customers. And there is a big difference. That is the posture that builds trust. Anything else erodes trust. And as entrepreneurs, when we're building our business, one of the most important components we want to build is trust. Communication and trust are core to building relationships. Customers have no expectation of perfection, and it's okay to make a mistake, it's okay to fail. Customers understand that things can drop. What they do, however, expect is professionalism. They want to feel heard. They want steadiness. They want to know that they are valued and that their business is valued. And a lot of times, our sensitivity in responding to employee feedback or customer feedback is really not about the situation that is in front of us. It is actually about a wound that is behind us. Man, that's so powerful right there. I want to sit with that myself. Our sensitivity is not always about the situation in front of us, but it is about the wound that is behind us. Last week, as I did a customer service training for the Eugene DePuche Law School, one of the stories I shared with the students was how back in the day on one of my first jobs, I had a male boss. And my male boss and I would have friction over and over and over again every single time he gave me an instruction. And one day he said to me, Dukwasa, why is it that we have to have this tussle when I give you an instruction? And I said to him, me, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking. I don't even know what you're talking about. And later that day while I was at home, I sat down on my couch and I thought, do you really give your boss a hard time? And if I were honest with myself, which I was, I admitted that I did. And so I inspected that a little further and asked myself, why are you giving him a hard time? And the answer came very clearly. It was because he was a man and men couldn't be trusted based on my experience with men in the past. And so that situation with my boss on a continuous basis had nothing to do with our work and everything to do with a wound or wounds that had happened in my past. And so I had to heal that wound to recognize that not every man is untrustworthy, but that the choices that I made in men in those days were horrible. And so if you have a history of feeling criticized or overlooked or undervalued, understand that feedback in business may hit you hard because it's going to trigger some wound that you had that has nothing to do with the situation today. And you must be willing to inspect that wound because leadership requires healing. If you do not heal your triggers will lead you. And a triggered leader creates an unstable environment. And what does an unstable environment look like? It means that your employees start walking carefully around you. They begin filtering the information that they give you. They are no longer completely honest. Innovation is going to slow down because people are managing their own emotions and your emotions instead of focusing on results. And sis or bro, business owner, as you're watching this, understand that that is a high cost for your business. Employees will leave, or worse, they will stay and tap out, helping to create a toxic environment. Customers will leave, and your reputation will suffer. So at this point, you may be asking or saying, wow, I recognize that I can be triggered as a leader. And if you are doing that, I commend you. Actually, I celebrate your honesty. So how do you grow out of being easily offended? Well, I want to give you a few points today. The first thing I'd like to encourage you to do is to pause before responding. If something hits you emotionally, Do not answer immediately. Take a breath. Tell your employee you'd like to come back to the conversation. Take a walk, breathe, create some space between whatever is stimulating that response in you and your actual verbal response to your employee. We don't have to answer everything right away. So pause before responding. Secondly, I encourage you to ask clarifying questions instead of defending yourself or making assumptions. My grandmother used to tell me all the time, when you make assumptions, you make an idiot out of you and me. And my Grammy did not use the word idiot. When we make assumptions, we are again coming to conclusions based on our own perceptions. But when we ask clarifying questions, we get more information to help us make informed decisions. We can ask questions like, uh, can you explain? Or would you help me understand more? What did you experience? What did you witness? Those questions alone open the door and increase your authority. It separates you from other leaders who are reactive. Thirdly, I would encourage you to separate who you are from what you do. That is some powerful juice right there. Many of us have our identities and our worth attached to our titles. We find validation because we are the leader or the boss. I'm here today to softly tell you that you are not your title. You are not your offer. You are not your launch. You're not your pricing model. Who you are is about your values, your integrity, how you've built your brand. And when you detach your identity from your output, feedback from other people becomes less threatening because you know it's not about you as an individual. You no longer personalize it. You can separate them. And fourthly, I'd like to encourage you to build emotional endurance. And you do this the same way you build physical endurance, by repetition, by practice, by being exposed, by accepting feedback, and by reflection. You cannot become resilient by avoiding discomfort. You become resilient by learning to sit in that discomfort. And finally, as a leader, self-development has to be non-negotiable. Leadership is not a title. There are many people working in our organizations who do not have the title of leadership, but they are leading people because leadership is a discipline. I encourage you to read books on emotional intelligence and seek mentors who challenge you. Invest in honest feedback from people who are not afraid to tell you how you're showing up. My core group of friends have the freedom to check me. They have the freedom to say, you're not showing up in the values that you say you want people to see in you, or you're not going the direction you've set. Have people who can help to anchor you. The leaders that grow are honestly the ones who are looking at themselves consistently, transparently, and honestly. If you want loyalty as a leader, you must become safe to approach. Our employees and our customers want safety. If you want innovation, you must be okay being challenged by those who are more creative than you. If you want longevity, you must be willing to be safe to correct. My businesses grow because I'm open to the correction of my team members. I'm open to the feedback of my team members. All of my support team members know that they can challenge my position by sharing their input, by sharing how they see things working, and I will take from that what I need to take from it, and I will leave the rest. But having your employees in a safe space to be able to do that really helps you to grow. The strongest leaders I know, those who are in my inner circle, are the most regulated leaders. They can receive critique without it destroying them emotionally. They can apologize to other people. They can take ownership and say, I'm sorry, without feeling diminished as individuals. They take ownership because the responsibility sits with them. I apologize that you didn't have all the tools that you needed to do your job. Let me see how I can correct that. That vulnerability as a leader is strength and it is maturity. And that is exactly what business that build do. That is how they last. And so, if you feel yourself easily offended, I'd like to encourage you to just recognize that as a sign of growth. This is an area that you need to grow in. Let leadership stretch you, expose you, confront the parts of you that you thought were resolved so that you can truly, truly heal. Because the question isn't if feedback will come to you. The reality is feedback will come to you and how you respond to that. If you are emotionally equipped to handle it and respond to it well, you create a culture where people are excited to do business with you. And so, as I close, I'd like to encourage you to really consider my message today. And if it challenged you, if it pricked you, if it touched you, think on it. Reflect on it honestly. Listen to it again if you need to, and ask yourself some questions. Some questions like, where have I reacted when I should have responded? How has my pride gotten in the way of my refinement? Because growth begins with awareness. And if you feel that there's someone that could benefit from this conversation, please share this with them. Because when we are, more and more of us are being introspective and growing and healing, our workplaces become better places. So let leadership stretch you. Let it expose the parts of you that success cannot hide. Because if you're building something that you want to last, you must become emotionally safe to correct, to question, and to refine. So here's your assignment. The next time feedback comes, pause, breathe, ask clarifying questions before defending yourself, and choose response over reaction. Practice that over and over and over again, and you'll become perfect at it. I'm so grateful that you joined me for this conversation, and I look forward to engaging with you in our next session. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hey, Nakoya, I appreciate you. Hey, thank you, Andrea. Great session. Thank you so very much. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next session. Take care.